Hello everyone, my name is Maria Oreska and I'm responsible for product development at Inphinity. One of our Click native products is Inphinity Flow. It started as a process visualization extension to your Click Sense, but in the end you can use it for many different use cases, from processes through hierarchies, networks, data lineage, timelines, up to integration and navigation. However, it's important to understand how it works, and that's exactly the reason why I'm recording this video. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you how Inphinity Flow works so you can be creative and think about all those use cases by yourself. What you can see on my screen right now is Inphinity Flow visualizing a simple process, HR process, from application review up to hiring a new employee. It might seem complex because you don't have anything like this in your ClickSense applications yet. But in the end, it's pretty simple. Inphinity Flow consists of two different parts. The first one is set of nodes, so these steps of the process. We technically call them nodes. And the second part is set of lines. And as you can see, every single line connects two different nodes. So behind Inphinity Flow visualization, there are two different hypercubes. The first one that contains all the information about nodes, their IDs, type that defines their design, label. Also, there can be tooltip, measure, as you can see here, and information whether it's highlighted, but that's advanced thing. The second hypercube contains information about lines. The basic is to define where the line starts, the ID of a node where the line starts, and where the line ends. And if you want, you can also add labels to the lines as well as tooltips. As you can imagine, these two hypercubes can be two different tables in your data model, the one for nodes and the second table for lines. But you can also utilize Click's advantages and use Click associations in a data model, as well as all the creativity you can use when defining expressions, because the whole definition of Inphinity Flow is done only in the properties panel, and the data is coming from a data model. And as you can see, for almost everything, you can use expressions. Let's start then with your first flow. Let me go to my SaaS tenant, and here we can create the first dataset we will use. Let's create a main process. That will contain steps. We can start with start. Then there will be a recruit, review, interview, and hire. Okay. Inphinity Flow can be found in the custom object section under Inphinity Bundle. So here is Inphinity Flow. Let me drag and drop it here. And the whole definition of it is done via the properties panel. So in the node section, we define the main information about the node. Node ID is a unique identifier. So step defines nodes I want to visualize. Let me skip node type and add node label. Right now it will be coming from the same field, and there's nothing wrong about it. So I can see those steps now: start, recruit, review, interview, and hire. And node type is the last thing that's required to be specified. So as I mentioned, node type is the thing that defines the design of these nodes. In the appearance section in properties panel, you can find this section built-in node types. So you can use those: start, activity, connector, decision, and end. That will be automatically applied. If you want to create your own designs, there is additional node type section, but we will come to that. Let's go step by step. So let me come back to script. And we can add information about the step type. For start, it will be start. For recruit, it can be activity. For review, it will be decision. For interview, activity. And for hire, it can be end. Let me load the data again. And in the properties panel, add step type here. So this is what node type means. Infinity Flow can be used even now. You don't need to define the lines if you don't want, but I'm missing them. Especially since it completely makes sense in this process to have different steps connected by lines. So let's define them. As I mentioned, the only thing that's needed, that's required, okay, my mistake, is to define where the line should start, like step from, and where the line ends. So from start to recruit, from recruit, review, the definition of lines in the properties panel is right under nodes, so it's intuitive next step. And here I define the field or expression, how the start point, start node is defined. In my case, it's the field step from, and where the line ends is defined in the field step 2. And this is my first complete Infinity Flow. So nothing else than 2 tables is needed. In case we have these linear processes that's also usable for navigation, we can be even more efficient. So instead of having a standalone table for process lines, let's add step ID to the first table. Okay, I need to be consistent. And we will use step ID in expression for the lines definition. So let's do exactly that. The line starts in step ID and ends in step ID plus 1. And it's okay, doesn't work right now. Because for node ID definition, we have field step containing these texts. And for the lines, we are referring to step ID, and it has to be aligned. So instead of step for node ID, we will use the field step ID, and it works. You might be curious, what are these 2 problems? So let me show you. In this section, show warnings and data, except for these hypercubes I mentioned to you, there is also the section warnings, and it informs you about what might be incorrect in your Infinity Flow. It's linked to process theory, so if you use Infinity Flow for networks or hierarchies or anything else, you will ignore those. But for now, let's see that the first warning is about outputs. Node type end, that's this here, must have exactly 0 outgoing lines, but has 1. The reason is that in the line section, we have said that step ID plus 1, and naturally it will be derived also for step ID 5. And it's not relevant, so we can say if step ID is less than 5. Let's use this. And as you may see, the other warning has been solved too. We are coming to an end of this video, but before that, let me share one more thing with you, how to add more additional information to these steps. Let me go to the script and copy and paste table I have prepared. As you can see, the logic of the table, the structure is very similar, so there is the same step ID. Step is more explanatory now. Step type is the very same. I have added information about the responsible person of a specific step of the process, and also additional information what's included. Labels on these nodes have been changed automatically, and it's one of really big advantages of Click Native extension. It works with data you have in a data model, so whenever something changed there, it's updated within the extension right after the next reload, exactly when it's updated in all other Click visualizations you use. So there are two information we should show user somehow: responsible person and description of the process step. And in the properties panel, you see there are two attributes we haven't used up to now. Let me start with measure. It's the information that is visible directly within Inphinity Flow when you see it. So let's add this step responsible person here. And whenever it contains information, there is this placeholder for measure showing what is needed. If the result is null, there is no wasted place. Please note it's defined by expression, so instead of having here information about the owner of the step, there can be anything that's calculated or derived based on whatever you have in your data model. Tooltip contains additional information that's available when you need it, so it's something you don't need to see whenever you use Inphinity Flow. It will be here if you want to see it. In this case, let's use this step description. So when you go through this process many times, when you use this application on a weekly basis, you don't need to see description of these steps. However, when a new person is onboarded or a new user is using this app, it's pretty helpful to have additional information available within these tooltips. I really hope this video was useful for you. There will be many more coming, and in the next one, we will go through advanced options of Inphinity Flow so you can utilize all the functions and features you have available. Until then, enjoy Flow!